On this week's FOMO show, Samsung Electronics announced its latest earnings and
Samsung has changed directions.
we're going to get into what to expect in 2024 for its TVs, and Amazon Prime sticks it to you again with its ad tier. No Dolby Vision, no Dolby Atmos, just 4K HDR, but you know what? It's okay. We're going to get into why it's not a big deal. Just go ahead, save your money, watch the ads, forget Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. And after 2 weeks, the Apple Vision Pro reviews are in, and reviewers like me do believe that the Vision Pro is the future of home cinema. And most importantly, we'll go over the drawbacks and what features you should be waiting for specifically before buying any kind of AR glasses for cinema watching. All of this and oh so much more on this week's FOMO show. Today's video is brought to you by WhoKeys. Trying to build a PC on a budget but don't know where to buy your Windows software cheaply? WhoKeys to the rescue. Use my coupon code SF20 and immediate discount with a free upgrade to Windows 11.
At the bottom of this order where it says code card, to the right is the product key you need to activate Windows. So copy this long number, then go to the Windows menu and click on Settings. In the Settings menu at the bottom, select Update and Security. Select Activation, then select Change Product Key, paste what you copied from WhoKeys, click Next, click Activate, and you're done.
You can buy Windows 11 Pro or Office 2019 Pro with my discount code SF20. Yes, I've been using WhoKeys for the last several years on my own PC builds and it just works.
Samsung Electronics just announced its fourth quarter earnings for fiscal year 2023, and well, let's just dive into the Samsung Display qd-oled and TV space to see what really happened. And sadly, large display, namely qd-oled TV panels, did not do well. They want to improve its profitability. So, why was it not profitable? Considering it was a limited volume, sold at a steep discount. You guys saw how the S90C, S89C sold so cheaply, way below what the G3 sold last year. Then you conclude Samsung Display, Samsung Electronics is trying to move qd-oled TVs at cost or even less. And this shows it, right? Large display to improve profitability. They need to get people excited to increase that volume. So they're willing to sell at cost or below cost in this case to move qd-oled into the wild. However, maybe this is backfiring because, as we saw, OLED TVs as a whole, both qd-oled and LG's WOLED, not growing. So Samsung Electronics, right, the mother company that's in charge of actually selling the TVs, it's their strategy I want to look at in 2024. And their strategy isn't necessarily selling more OLED TVs. What they want to do is expand their leadership in the premium market by focusing on selling high value added products. And at the end, it indicates big TVs above 75 inches to preemptively respond to high demand during the peak season. And they emphasize big TVs above 75 inches is where solid demand is projected. Well, above 75 inches, that leaves only two sizes, 85 inches and 98 inches. So they're projecting this is where it's going to be. This is the it factor for them. Notice throughout this entire projection report, no mention of expanding OLED TVs. That's a concern for me if I'm Samsung Display, working so hard to get qd-oled out there and winning the shootout, but the consumers are spending that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on larger TVs. This is a huge indicator because at Samsung Electronics, they sell all types of premium TVs, 8K TVs, 85-inch, 98-inch, and qd-oled, all of them expensive, all of them over $2,000. They're seeing the big TVs above 75-inch. That's going to be the sweet spot in 2024. So let's see if that really is the case. Again, these are projections. This is what they expect. What do you guys think? And 2024 appears to be a huge year for Samsung and all the other TV makers because it apparently is a replacement year. Looking at this headline, the fate of panel industry in 2024 depends on three factors, but one of those factors is the biggest one, I think. Specifically, a replacement wave for TVs is also anticipated for 2024. This is mainly due to high-profile sporting events, including the European Cup, the Copa America, and the Olympics. And in the USA, it was the Super Bowl last week. And current industry leaders in the panel industry are optimistic that these sporting events will drive overall TV sales in 2024. So people replacing their TVs in 2024 with a new TV. The question being, is it a new 98-inch, 85-inch TV, or a new OLED TV? And so Samsung's decision in this next headline kind of says it all. Samsung signs a long-term deal for white OLED, WOLED, and LCD panel supply from LG Display. And we're going to focus on that WOLED from LG Display because this is why I think it's important. And in this next article from Business Korea that adds a bit more detail to this contract from LG Display to Samsung Electronics, the SEC expects LG Display to supply an additional 42-inch and 48-inch panels, and it is anticipated that all products will be equipped with LG Display's OLED panels because 42-inch and 48-inch OLED panels not available at qd-oled type technology from Samsung Display, so they will be WOLED. The question is whether Samsung Electronics will mix and match WOLED with qd-oled in the various models. Now, in this article by Flat Panels, they are pretty certain that the S95D flagship OLED TVs from Samsung will be all qd-oled, so 55, 65, 77. But the other types of OLED models, the S90D and the S85D, it's uncertain what sizes will be WOLED and what sizes will be qd-oled. Hopefully, the S90D will be qd-oled where it matters, right? 55, 65, 77, and maybe in the 83-inch, of course, WOLED, or in the smaller sizes, 42 and 48-inch, WOLED. But we'll see. What I do know is this: Samsung is not separating TVs based on WOLED or qd-oled performance in terms of telling the consumer, hey, if you want the best performance, go with this because it has qd-oled. Instead, they're separating performance just based on price and model lineup, meaning S95D, more expensive, better performing, it has qd-oled. S90D is a mixed match of both WOLED and qd-oled. So if there is an 83-inch S95 S90D, if there's an 83-inch S90D, it would have to be WOLED, but Samsung is not going to emphasize that this is WOLED or that is qd-oled. Instead, they will just say OLED is awesome, you're paying a premium for awesome, go for it. So once we get more details about the TV models themselves, we're going to ask Samsung if they're willing to share what models specifically and what sizes are WOLED and what sizes are qd-oled. Now, what's more interesting is that this contract is a 5-year agreement. So Samsung and LG, formerly rivals, are now best buddies in this aspect. OLED, they're in the same boat. They're trying to expand the reach of OLED, and together they need to grow the OLED TV industry. Between qd-oled and WOLED, the two really are in the same boat, right? Consumers really aren't distinguishing between WOLED and qd-oled. To them, OLED is OLED. So in order to grow the OLED pie, right, kind of take away some of those sales from the larger LCD TVs, they need to work together. And in this case, 5 years, that's a lot of working together. So let's see how this plays out. And speaking of 2025, as we scroll down to this next article of Flat Panels, we will be surprised if in 2025, OLED TVs don't reach 4,000 nits, right? In other words, we expect 4,000 nits to be available on LG Display's WOLED with MLA in 2025, next year. Is that going to make a difference? I think this is something that we're all going to struggle with, is how bright is bright enough? How good is good enough? I mean, if they keep on pushing brightness, will they sell more TVs? Because at this point, I think they should focus on dropping the price. In other words, an 83-inch OLED TV without MLA, press that price downward, like $2,000, $2,500. $2,000 to $2,500 for an 83-inch OLED, right? Just a basic OLED, no MLA. That can move the needle because you're competing against an $1,800 QN85C 85-inch from Samsung Electronics, because ultimately I think image quality is already good enough. Going with a theme that for most people, today's TVs are definitely good enough, if not perfect, right? Let's look at this major event last week, the Super Bowl, the most watched Super Bowl ever. Okay, so if you have an amazing TV, how much of that amazing TV really affects the quality of your Super Bowl? I would venture to say that the consumer would love to watch the Super Bowl that was as big, as immersive as possible, rather than a Super Bowl with perfect black levels and specular highlights, right? What they want to see is clear motion, big, easy contrast, color pops, vibrant, most likely in dynamic mode, because sports in dynamic mode looks fine, or standard mode. They don't care about filmmaker mode. So all TVs right now, whether it's $1,000 or $3,000, really look great watching the Super Bowl with soap opera galore. Okay, the most watched event of the year in the USA, and every TV above $1,000 looks great. Where does that leave OLED? So you buy an 83-inch OLED for $4,000, and then someone next to you buys an 85-inch Sony X90L for $1,900. Get the exact same experience, honestly, right? The OLED doesn't bring this Super Bowl any better to his living room, right? It's not a better experience. It's an OLED experience, but you're not going to see that infinite contrast or care about infinite contrast in standard mode watching it on the 83-inch. And the X90L looks great. Great motion, sports motion, it's good enough. That, I think, is where many TV makers may be losing the point. If most content, so Super Bowl aside, right, that's a special event, but let's talk about YouTube, streaming, satellite, cable. Do you really need that amazing OLED for 80% of the watch experience you have? Maybe more? Yes, the 5% where you're watching Blu-ray discs, right, might need the best of the best, but is it worth paying double, triple for that 5% when you do watch the best of the best? So let me know in the comments below. What is your viewing pattern? What is your content, your use case? Most of the time, are you watching streaming, basic TV, news, sports? How much of it is high quality filmmaker mode type content? What about Amazon Prime? Because this next article dives into Amazon Prime and what they're doing. Dolby Vision and Atmos now restricted to Prime Video's new premium plan. In other words, if you're streaming on Amazon Prime's lowest pricing tier with ads, right? So you agree to watch ads, but in return, they've taken away, or they don't even offer, Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos, and instead you get just 4K HDR, HDR10, plus basic 5.1 audio, not Dolby Atmos. Now, a lot of people are upset when Amazon announced this, and they've already filed a class action lawsuit. So lawsuit aside, what is my take on this? It doesn't matter, honestly. As far as your real experience, I'm talking about 4K HDR without Dolby Vision. I think with a good TV, it looks great. And with a good TV, Dolby Vision will look great. And with a bad TV, it would look bad. And with a bad TV, Dolby Vision would also look bad. If anything, Dolby Vision looks too dark on a bad TV. So Dolby Vision is a non-factor if you have a decent TV. And when I say decent TV, we're going to talk about the Hisense U7K or the TCL Q7. 2023 TVs, both of them under $1,000 for like a 75-inch. Great TVs, they would make 4K HDR look very good. Don't need Dolby Vision. And as far as Dolby Atmos, that's another mixed bag. 5.1 on a soundbar, Dolby Atmos on a soundbar, it's going to sound the same. There's no issue. The 5.1, that 0.1, that low frequency extension, right? You have a subwoofer, it'll sound the same as Atmos. And you're asking, wait, doesn't Atmos give me spatial ceiling effects? On a soundbar? No. And if you have a high-end theater, Trinoff, Storm, right? A good Denon that has Atmos, well, they all have an upmixing function. Guess what? Upmix 5.1, it sounds just as good. So Dolby Atmos is a non-player in this as far as I'm concerned. But for many people who don't know, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna have to pay the extra tier. And now if you pay the extra tier to avoid ads, that's fine. But do not pay just to get Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. I don't think it's an issue at all. So I just wanted to let you guys know that although I love that it sparks the class action, because anytime Amazon has to fight for what it gets, I think it's a good thing, right? They take us for granted. But as consumers, the reality is if you want to stay on the ad tier, it's okay. Your experience will be no worse, other than the ads, than the people paying a little bit extra for Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments below. What TV do you have? What system do you have? Because I think on a soundbar, Atmos doesn't matter at all. Speaking of people who don't like streaming, right? US home entertainment market up 16.8% in 2023, but the DVD Blu-ray disc is down 25%. And I'm going to focus on the DVD BD Blu-ray disc down 25%. Now, if you dive into the actual details, it's actually the other way around. Premium 4K UHD disc sales is up. I guess people who are buying DVDs, they're disappearing. That's fine, right? I mean, don't buy DVDs, buy a 4K disc. But more specifically, what we're finding is people want the premium 4K UHD experience. In this next article, this is what I wanted to show you guys. I think this is really great. Studios have now come around to the idea of treating 4K releases like collector's items, and consumers are responding enthusiastically. And specifically, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer sold out, right? When you put in the effort to make a good collector's item, 4K UHD disc, people are buying it up, and I love that. Now, you're saying, wait, you love that? Speak with your wallet, FOMO. What have you purchased that would be considered a boutique collector's item disc? I'll tell you what, pitch black director's cut from Germany, and unlike the Aero version that does not come in Dolby Atmos, this was remastered for Dolby Atmos, and of course it has Dolby Vision, but you can only get it through turbine.de. I've linked it below. No, they did not sponsor, but I wanted you guys to have a chance to get that. Now, that particular collector's item, it has all posters and whatever, that's sold out, right? Sold out a while back, but they are releasing those 3 discs again later this year, and that's what I'm talking about, is people are actually buying up these collector's sets, collector discs in 4K UHD, and that's actually growing, and I love it. So there's a little bit for everyone. So that maybe the death of the disc format is premature. It's been replaced with a premium disc experience, very similar to where we are with vinyl, right? And what's the opposite of physical media? How about next-gen streaming? We're talking about the Apple Vision Pro. Is the Apple Vision Pro the future of home cinema? I think it is. Now, we're talking future, not present. Apple Vision Pro is the present. I have it. I saw a couple of those movies, snippets, more like, not really movies, snippets from Apple, right? The dinosaur experience, or the girl tightrope walking across the fjords in Norway. So those are true Vision Pro experiences. That is next gen. That is the future of cinema, I think. Nothing else is available that looks like that in terms of content. So until more content like that is out there, I'm going to push that into the future. Now, what about 100 feet TV screens, right? Which is what a lot of people are talking about. Hey, you know, this looks great. It looks like a 100-foot TV is in front of me, or whatever. Now, ultimately, it's still 2D. I don't care if they're saying, oh, you know, the 3D format is going to look great on it. It does look better on the Vision Pro than in the real screen, right? So 3D Avatar, Way of the Water in 3D at the movie theater does not compare to Avatar on Vision Pro, but it still has its limitations in terms of, it still feels two-dimensional, essentially, right? You're still watching from afar. The screen is still perceptually 10 feet away, 8 feet away, however you want to place the screen. It's still away from you. Where the Vision Pro excels is you are almost inside the scene. That's the future of home cinema, I believe, because the Vision Pro has its limitations. Now, there are some drawbacks, and let's go into some of the technical drawbacks right now that you guys need to be aware of. And this article that Rasmus put up on Flat Panels HD kind of lists some of the major drawbacks that UTV enthusiasts may not know. It's specular highlights, the brightness, right? It's not there yet. Now, we're talking 4,000 nits, 3,000 nits on TVs, even OLEDs. The Vision Pro is not at that point. It looks bright, it looks fantastic, infinite contrast, but that dynamic range of super bright to dark, not quite there. So my HDR impact is mostly from the immersion of a larger screen, but not from the dynamic range. I think there needs to be that dynamic range hitting at least 4,000 nits. Yes, Sony's already announced 4,000 nits, a monitor, a reference monitor for grading. Well, the Vision Pro needs to get there. And what about color? That's the other issue. It only goes up to 92% of DCI-P3. Not good enough. qd-oled, way higher, almost 100%. But will you notice the difference? Well, maybe not, but for 3,500, it's got to be a premium color experience as well. Now, we'll get there, but not in this generation. So maybe the future Vision Pro would be the future of cinema. Now, also mentioned in this article is the issue of motion, right? Although Apple Vision Pro supports refresh rates of 90 Hz, 96 Hz, and 100 Hz, typical of VR devices, is still relatively low, causing motion blur. So for me, it's not even the motion blur. It's the stutter of converting regular movies to this format. So, Dune, for example. I would watch Dune, and there were some scenes where the stutter was just noticeable, too noticeable, and I couldn't adjust the motion interpolation to give it a bit more soap opera in return for eliminating that stutter, but I couldn't do it. So I think future Vision Pros need to have motion settings that are adjustable, or convert some of that motion stutter into more of a smooth motion. Maybe Pixelworks will have something for the Vision Pro in the future. Would you wait for the Vision Pro if these things are addressed, or you want more of a community aspect of a TV? Let me know in the comments below what you think the future of home cinema is. Until next time, stop the FOMO.
From the beginning.
Hit it, boys.